Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellow shedheads around the world. Welcome to Captain of My Shed. I'm Captain Mikey, and on this episode of what is rapidly turning into a Let's Make Things for My Wife channel, I'm going to make a shoe rack for her yoga well-being space that she's got. And we're going to try and match up with the coat rack that I did, where it's going to be a live edge, or there will be a live edge element to it. It's going to look really nice. I'm trying something a little bit different again with the voiceover in this one. I'm trying to be a bit more explanatory as I go. So I'd love to hear your feedback on whether you think that works or if you think it just gets in the way of the imagery. What I want is for these videos to be useful. And I figure that maybe if I explain things as I go, then maybe I can add a bit more detail to what you're seeing on the screen. Let me know if you think it works. Let me know if you think it doesn't. Either way, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you at the end. Okay, let's get straight into it. So I don't often do live edge work. I tend to get rid of the live edge normally, but I have been using it a bit more recently, and this is my process. So I go at it first with a chisel to get rid of the bulk of the bark. Not a very sharp chisel. You want to get in between the bark and the live edge of the wood, leaving the wood as intact as you can. So too sharp and you'll probably start scarring up the edge of the wood. Get rid of most of this loose stuff or loose-ish stuff, and then you're ready for the next stage, which is to go at it with a, what I choose is a brass brush wheel on a grinder, just to get rid of all the fluffy bits that are left underneath the bark. It comes off quite nice and easily and leaves a relatively smooth surface for this next stage, which is sanding. You're just getting stage by stage smoother and smoother without getting rid of too much wood. And I worked from 80 grit up to 150 grit, 120 grit in the middle. So I'm left with a fairly smooth edge ready for maybe 220 grit before I finish later on. Time to go over to the planer now. I want to make my surfaces nice and flat and the thickness relatively even. It's not desperately important that it's an even thickness, but to make this more manageable, I'll cut the slab down into a little bit longer than the final dimensions that I need out of this. Clean up the ends as well. Try and get rid of most of that crack. Although I don't mind it being there, I want a bit of character in this piece. And then flatten that face off here on the planer. Bringing each piece of the slab down to a uniform thickness. It's not critical, the dimension of this. I just want them a little bit thinner than they are and the same thickness as one another. This step could obviously be done with a hand plane or even an electric hand plane, but this piece of kit has been an excellent addition to my workshop. It's from Axminster. I'll put an affiliate link in the description or the details below, and also in the not too distant future I'll do a review on this machine. If you're interested, then just subscribe. Now the boards are both the same thickness, I can use the one to help support my track as I cut the other one in half, breaking these boards down pretty much straight down the middle to give me ultimately 4 live edge pieces. I only end up using 3, but the 4th one I'll use in a different project. We have one there.
But yeah, look, this is the end of the pie.
Oh, one there. This was my little helper explaining the workshop dust extraction system to me. Thanks very much, Alto. And now I'm just cutting up this spare strip wood that I had left over from a different project and laying out the live edge pieces to give me some idea of where the shoes will go, how it's going to look, and then I'll mark these up. It can cut, it cuts wood. Don't chop it, it cuts it.
Yeah.
There's a difference, you know?
Yeah, it is a difference. I'm just going to move it around myself so I can keep my headphones. Okay?
Okay.
I can touch
Your ear, they're called ear defenders, those are.
Yeah, but I'm going to put them on my tummy so they don't fall over.
Good idea. That's a sharp corner, and so is this and this one. So we're going to use. So watch what I do, and then you copy me, okay? So we're going to rub it along that corner. So now feel, it's not as sharp anymore. So do some more of that.
Does this make it not feel sharp?
That's right.
Now it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. This is fairly self-explanatory, I suppose, but I'm just marking up where I'm going to drill holes in these pieces to attach them to the kind of side frame of the shoe rack. Now I'm cutting rebates in three positions along the inside face of the side of the frame, using an offcut of the same material to check that my rebate's going to fit nice and snug. The saw blade has left me with a few tracks in the wood, so I'm just clearing those out with a nice sharp chisel. This kit here is great. It's a set of Forstner bits with corresponding set of plug cutters, and it really helps to make quick and easy projects where you're using just screws to hold it together, maybe screws and some glue. You can tidy it right up using these plugs, and you'll see now how it works. So I'm using the Forstner bit first in the locations that I marked previously, not drilling all the way through with the Forstner bit, just taking it down to the shoulder of the cutting head. Once I get that deep, bring it back up, and then after this I will drill all the way through that hole with a smaller drill bit to allow a screw to go through. The holes I'm drilling here are just to allow clearance for the head of the screw. Switching out to the plug cutter here, I'm just using a regular piece of oak, similar oak to what I've been using. It's American white oak, and you can be really careful about your grain selection and make these plugs almost invisible with the piece that you put them into. But for the purposes of this project, which is a bit more of a rustic looking kind of arts and crafts vibe, I'm quite happy for these plugs to be seen, but it is going to look really smart when it's finished, and you'll see that in a bit. Finding the centre of these holes and drilling through is easy to do. The Forstner bit that I use has a brad point on it which leaves a little mark in the centre of the hole which guides the drill bit through. Drilling slightly wider than the diameter of the screw that I'm going to use. And now I'm going to just pre-mark those holes on the side rails of the shoe rack. The first two of these strips that I install have to be square because they're going to dictate how square the rest of the project is. So I'm going to check as I go for square, make sure that we're as close as needs be. I'm pre-drilling the holes as well. It's fairly thin in that area. I don't want to split the wood when I put the screws in. It also helps the screws going a little bit easier and prevents me from stripping the head. I'm now using that spacer to dictate where I put the live edge piece and bringing a shoe into play to see how things fit and how things work with that spacing. I'll mark those holes, pre-drill them and attach them in the same way. Later on I do add a dab of glue under there, not much but just enough to hold it together, stop it from moving. I'm about to slide in these pieces into the rebates that I cut earlier, and these are for the toe of the shoe to rest against, stop it from falling right the way through the shoe rack. And I've got a 9mm piece of plywood there again to leave a gap so that any dirt etc can be brushed off and will fall down through the gap rather than sitting there, especially if there's a little bit of moisture. It's got a chance to dry out or at least be wiped away without sitting in the corners and leaving nasty stains. We're almost done now. I'm just pre-drilling and screwing in the slats at the back of the shoe rack. I'm going to use these. You can see a couple of holes in the top slat there. These will be used to attach the shoe rack to the wall it's going on. And also they will hold the shoe off the wall to stop the shoe from staining the painted wall that this shoe rack is going to be attached to. Now, I don't know why, but I always find this bit quite satisfying because, well, I suppose it's because I'm covering up all those unsightly holes. But yeah, it is nice and satisfying. These pegs fit in just perfectly, given that little kit that I showed you earlier. And yeah, once they're cut away, you're left with a really nice, flush-looking finish. Really smart. Good old Osmo to seal it all up and put a nice finish on it. I'm using the gloss. It's not that glossy, but it does leave a nice finish. Quite a hard wearing finish too, given that this is going to have shoes in and out of it all the time. well, that's it. We're done. I hope you enjoyed it. It was only a fairly quick project, fairly simple and straightforward. I'm really enjoying this live edge work. You see loads of it on the internet, and I can see why people enjoy it. It's a little bit different working with that rough edge, and it creates a really nice, warm-looking piece in the end of the day. So anyway, I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thank you very much if you're subscribed already, and if you're not, then I'd love your support. It would be much appreciated by me. But for now, I'll see you next time. Take it easy.